Hello and welcome everybody to our webinar, Advanced Search Possibilities with WorkPoint 365. We are very happy to see you all here and I hope we will enjoy it and hopefully learn a little bit more about the advanced search parts in our solution and how you can find easily everything you need. So my name is Florian Neuhold and I will guide you through this webinar today. First of all, do not hesitate to type in anything in the Q&As. I will take care of it, and I promise that we also planned a little bit time after the webinar, after the presentation, to take care about the questions and hopefully answer everything. Today, the topic will be presented from our senior consultant, Lars Rador. Like I said, if you have any questions, do not hesitate to put it in. Lars will definitely make a perfect presentation. I hope there will be no questions, but if there are questions, you can also contact us on service and support or our partner portal as well. So Lars, I hope you are ready and you are prepared for everything to show us your demonstration. If you're ready, I will definitely put your system exactly live right now.
All right, thanks. Yeah, so today, as Florian just introduced here, we're going to talk a little bit about the search possibilities that we have with WorkPoint. And what I want to go through here today is all of the search capabilities we have with the search settings in the WorkPoint solution, with the Express panel search specifically, and the Webparts that can utilize those search settings. I just want to give an overview of 3 different examples that I've prepared for this in a demo solution that we have. First of all, I'm just going to show you what the end result looks like, how search can look, and then I'm going to go a little bit more into details of how it's set up after we've seen the end result of it, so we know what we're looking into with the configuration afterwards. First of all, I'm going to jump into a risk overview slide here, and this is a simple search settings that we have. The most basic example I can come up with here, where we have a site on a WorkPoint solution where we have put in our Express panel search in a Webpart specifically. So this search Webpart here is set up to show specifically risks, and in here I can see all of the risks that is created in this demo solution that I'm looking at right now. And I've set up so that I can see different metadata from the risk itself from on different projects in this solution. And I can then type in different search queries here. That will just filter down the search results. Yes, there's not a lot of risks right here, but when we get to document search, there'll be a little bit more results here that would make sense to do some search on. But in general, when we have a search setting in WorkPoint and this Webpart, there's always some common things that is worth noting. So we have, of course, the search query where you can type in anything up here to find all your information. So you can search for a word here and you'll find the source for that. And then I just want to note here that we have the filter pane on top here on the right-hand side. And this is where you can have some additional information filtered. So some of the information that we have put out as information on this Webpart as well, that you can see, you can then also filter on. So I only want to show, for instance, all of the risks that are open right now that has a severity category of 3. So this was filtered down the result that I've already have here on the left-hand side. Yeah, there we go. So this will only show me these 2. And you can use this filter in combination with the free search query that you have up here to really filter down a large data set to a few specific results here. I'm just going to move that filter again. So what we have additional to those filters, these we can set up to be some of the information that's on this column group here, or it can be from some metadata that's on the results, but is not necessarily shown down here. So I can have some information on the entity itself that I wanted to be able to filter on that's not necessarily shown here. I can have that configuration as well. So I don't know why it's loading right now, so I'm just going to refresh the page. And then what we have, other than the filters here, we have some what we call result groups here on the left-hand menu under the search bar itself. This is where we can do some predefined search for the users that's generally available for all users that can see this page. So by default, when I go into this risk overview, it will only show me the open risks. So all risks, they have a status. So it can be either open or it can be closed. So for instance, if I choose to change over here to all risks, and I apologize that this is quite slow right now, don't know exactly why, but what we'll see here is that it will show us some more risks that's not previously shown. I have one that's currently in the status closed as soon as this is done loading. But we'll be able to also choose based on these result groups up here which columns should be available down here. So you saw when I switched from open risk to all risk, I have an additional column being displayed here. It's called status, which would show me if it's open or closed. And this could also have a base query included. So when I was on, I'm just going to refresh this again. So when I was on this open risks page here, this has a base search query that only shows us tasks that has the status of open. So it's filled out all the risk here that's already completed and has been handled. And when I chose to go to all risks, I'll be able to see everything, and then I could use the filter option that I had on the right-hand menu here to filter if I wanted to show only completed or open risks. So this is unfortunately not really loading right now. I'm not quite sure why, so I'm just gonna jump really fast to the next one. So that's the basic setup that we have on risk. So I've just have prepared another search part here, which we then search for tasks. And this is kind of the same basic setup. So I've set up a result group here called My Open Tasks, which is the default that I go into when I go to my search overview. And this would be already have a base query included, where it only shows me tasks that have been assigned to me and that has a status here that is not completed. So this would be like a dashboard overview where I see what is currently assigned to me that I have to take care of, and based on the due date up here. These columns here as well, if they are refinable in the settings when you set it up, you can click on the headers here and you can sort these as well based on this data or a project ID, for instance. So you can just click on the header and that would sort the results as well if you need that. But over here in the search result, we have some different results as well, and let's hope that this works a little bit better. So if I have open tasks here, I can see that now I'm not filtered anymore on my task specifically. Now I have a task for several different people here as well. So I have the Bertram and Alma, which has some tasks assigned to them. So here I'll be able to see all the tasks that has a status of in progress throughout the system where I have access to tasks across the projects. This could be good to an overview for a management position where they need to see what do we actually have open right now that we need to do and take care of. And then if we for some reason want to go back and see what has actually been done previously, we can have a search result down here that will just search in everything. So that's everything in WorkPoint that's created as a task that has been completed. It will just show you all the results. Then we can filter down here on due dates and who's it assigned to. This could also be a management overview, but you can, if you want to see only completed, for instance, we can go in and use the filters that we have up here and then say I want specifically only to show me the completed tasks, for instance, or remove that filter again. One of the additional features that we have here on the task webpart that I've set up here is I have an option here to select a couple of tasks with the checkbox. And that's a feature that we put into the research result, the Express panel search here, where we have an option to send these documents and then start a wizard based on these tasks that I've selected. So a wizard in this instance could be, okay, I have these 4 tasks on my list. This would actually make sense if I go into my open task and I want to set a new due date on these, for instance. So I can go in and select 3 of my tasks and then say, okay, I want to update these tasks. And these could be across different solutions or across different projects. So I've set this up so right now that I can choose a new person this should be assigned to or a new date that these should have a due date. So in here I could go and say, okay, I want these to be the 1st of January, that these should have a new due date, and then deselect that. And this will just update all the selected tasks that I have and set this new due date on those tasks. And you'll not be able to undo this if you just run it. It'll just go through each of the items and then store that. And this will run as a job in the background. So as soon as this action is complete, all of these documents here or these tasks will have a new due date here as soon as the search picks it up that these has been updated. So this is some functionality we have, and currently we support that you can select documents and update user and date fields this way with send to action on a list like this. And if you just take a look at the last thing that I want to show here. So we have the risk overview, which is the basic part. We have some additional functionality with the task overview with that send to function. And then if we go into my prepared document search here, this is where we get a lot of different results when we search for documents across the entire solution. What I've set up here is we have some navigation options. Instead of having to type in a filter or something like this, we can have some way that the user can manually navigate down throughout the system and the filter based on mouse clicks in here basically. So the setup that I'm currently have right now is that I have documents here for across probably 7 or 8 different projects, and these projects, they all have a specific project type. So right now what I could do is I could filter down, click on industrial, so I have a project type called industrial. So this would only show me all of the documents that's on a project in this category, for instance. This is a way that we can easily help filter down on the content that you search for, basically by filtering down on specific categories of projects that you only want to source from. And this can again be combined by all of the normal functionalities that's within here that you can do a free text search here. So you can search for plan, for instance, and I'll find everything with plan within project type industrial. So if we have 1,000 projects and 40 of them is of type industrial, then I'll only search within those 40 specific projects just by filtering down like this. And this actually supports a different hierarchy in term store management in SharePoint. So for instance, if I go into infrastructure here, I have 3 different sub terms that I can have in the manage metadata fields. And in here I can then click on highway. So this is everything that's specifically set to a highway project type on the project metadata. Or I can just take the step above this and it'll show everything that's either highway, airport, or bridges by clicking on the infrastructure. So that will show me more results. So this is a good way to filter down on specific content so you can really limit your search greatly in this way. This could also be, for instance, if you have a large company that has lots of different departments or offices, you could have access to a lot of documents and I just want to show documents for one department. I could click down through a department hierarchy here, for instance, and then find documents based upon that. So which project does this department run? And you can then use the navigation up here to go back and forth in this hierarchy and then see the results filtered out over here. This can of course be combined as well with some metadata that we have in the filter action. So as I just mentioned here, we have some department information. Now all of the projects that I have right now under infrastructure, they're all from the same department. So that doesn't really make a lot of sense, but we have some document type as well. So additional to the project metadata that I search for over here, we have some document types on each individual document that I can filter down on. So for instance, what we can see here is that I have this type up here, and this is a document type I was talking about. So I can see we have a lot of engineering documents, we have a lot of architectural drawings as well. And I can use this filter to really filter down on the individual items here as well. So that was a really bad example. I wanted to press on, where do we have it? Architectural drawings here. So this would only show me all of the documents that's within the architectural drawings document category on projects that's within the infrastructure project type. So without having done actually any search or users done any search queries or anything, I can really get very close to some results that I want to use in the solution based upon the navigation up here by clicking on the project type and using the filters over here as well. So I have this document type. It could be I only wanted to see PDF files, for instance. Now I have only 3 results, where at the start I had 5 different pages down here. That's without doing any actual search up here. Then I can of course use this to filter down even further on this result as well. So there's some of the functions that we have that we can use in a dashboard way. So in here, this is usually something that I've set up on a front page. So for instance, I'm on the front page of the WorkPoint solution here, where I have some quick action or quick links that I want to present the users with, where they can quickly go to like the risk overview that we started by showing, the task overview, so they can see what is the daily work that they need to work on. And then they can quickly go to the documents overview as well and navigate like we just showed here. An additional thing here that's, in my opinion, a good thing to do is just put some information on the page here as well. So there's a lot of technical search stuff that I'm not going to go into here. That's mostly SharePoint and how you navigate this. I just write some tips and tricks over on the right-hand side where you can't have the web part shown anyway, as these web parts will only take up this part of the screen if it's in full size in SharePoint. So that's for the dashboards. And if we go and see, we use search really for most of the things when we do WorkPoint solutions for customers, and what we recommend doing as well. So if I go in and find a customer front page here, I just want to show that we also do search in here. So what we have here is I found a specific company here, and the front page, the dashboard of the company itself, is actually just 2 search web parts that we do. So for instance, if I wanted to show all the projects, we can do this over here. And this is specifically great if you have a large solution. We have a list view web part that can do this sort of thing as well. But if you have a large solution where you have more than 5,000 projects or entities in a list over here that you want to show data from as a child, the search is really the way to go for showing these information. And this is a base setup where whenever I go into a site, this will just show me all the projects that's under the current entity that I'm on. So for instance, I'm under CHS, and that just shows me all of the 3 projects here that's created under this company. And additionally, what we have here is an option to search for documents specifically that's under CHS as a company or as a project in this case. So we have some different search scopes over here on the right hand side where we can set up. So this says that it search for or finds results right now in CHS and below. So this is when we say below, that means that it's below CHS in the WorkPoint hierarchy. So this currently finds documents within the site that I'm on right now and in these 3 different projects. So that's everything I search for here. So if I do a search here, this is a search specifically for content within this site and below. So I can see that the 2 documents that I found here is something that's stored within this project over here based upon the project ID that I'm displaying here in the columns. And of course, if you click on these, should have mentioned at the beginning, when you do document search, you of course get a preview of the document. So in here, I can see some contents, a little bit of preview window of the content of this document. So that's a really great way to see if the document that I found is actually the one that you're looking for, without having to go in and open up each individual document in Word or Excel or whatever program it is that opens the files that you found a result for. If we do project search over here, this is just a search result. There's no way I can actually type in a specific search term. We've disabled that because we only wanted to show projects. But in here, I can just double click on a project in this result, and it will navigate me automatically to that project site, as we have right here. And of course, when we end this project site, I can have my document search web part as well. That was only show me documents from this specific site that I'm on. without having to go into the documents library over here. And this can even, if you have two document libraries I have here, this can show me results across both of these without folders. So this is a way that you can quickly find documents and navigate to them without having to actually go through the entire folder structure that you might have on such a large project, for instance. Another thing that I just forgot to mention here that I want to go back to in the documents overview that I have. So when I have these actions that I talked about with task, where I can select documents and then select the send to, we have another option where you can use this send to button when we select one or more documents in here. So I have this copy items function that I can actually set up for tasks as well, if I wanted to. This is basically where I can take the results that I had, my search result, and then say, okay, I want these documents to be copied to another project or another company for this. It could be another company here. So the 4 documents that I had could be from different projects throughout the entire WorkPoint solution that I have access to. Like I say, I want to copy these 4 documents over to the specific site that I chose right now. And this would just store a copy of these. And I can even have all of the information, like the document type, would be copied over when it is that I do this. And this unfortunately doesn't work right now, so I'm not going to press the save button. But for this specific solution at least. But when I do this, it will just copy each of these documents, and I can even rename them here if I want to the new target site that I chose in the previous step here. This is some additional functionality where you can combine some of the search settings with actual actions where you can do something with these. So this could be, for instance, if you have some documents that you wanted to use as a template for a new project, you can find a sales quote and you can find an engineering or a drawing template and then copy those over to a new project if you have something that you want to reuse from previously done completed projects, for instance. Yeah, I think that's it for the result here, how the web part actually looks. Of course, these can be available up here as well. So this is the search express panel search that we have up here is basically running on the same search settings as this we have over here. So whenever you do a search settings that we're going to go back to in just a minute, we can choose if this should be available in this express panel search that we have on the top right hand side of each site in WorkPoint. And just before I go into talk about the settings, I just wanted to show you what we can do here as well from this web part. That is the same principles we can set up. So I have my entity search, which is the first option over here. And here I can have different result groups as well. So right now I've set it up so by default, users in this demo solution, they will search for projects. So they get all of the metadata that we found relevant to show for projects in here and then search for that. So I can search for highway, for instance, and I'll find the results here at these 3 different highway projects that we have. And you can, of course, change here if you want to search for companies instead. You'll find all the companies. So this is a way that I quickly use to navigate the system usually. So instead of having to go into companies and then find it in the list and go up and search up here in the site, I usually just press on this express panel search. This can be open and closed using the F2 shortcut as well. I would usually just double click on an item when I have it in here. So I wanted to go into this specific project. I can just double click it here and then I'll go there immediately. So this is without having to go back to the project's front page and then search for a specific project. I can just go from one project to another using the search tool that I have up here. And then you can have some keyword searches if you want. So it could be a customer number, a project number that you can search for, and then you'll find the specific project that you're looking for quite easily. And you can just automatically navigate to that project without having to leave this page in the first place. And on this page as well, so we have that's the entity search, and we have the document search as well, where we have put some of the same information in that we have shown on the document search, just without the navigation part. So of course here we can do some different information here. we can show all of the documents that we have and a little preview of them, and just really navigate into the system and do some quick searches here with we search for tasks in this case, and I'll find all of the documents throughout different projects that contains this keyword, and we have the same filter options, etc. here as well. And for the technical part, I want to go in and see the configuration of this. So the configuration of the search setting, when we go into the WorkPoint administration page, it's always over here on the search settings on this left-hand side menu down towards the bottom. And if we go in here, we'll have some different search settings at the very top. And these are the overall search scopes and settings that I can choose from. And if you go in and find the search setting that I have, for instance, for the document search that I showed previously with the navigation, you'll just see how that is set up. So first off, we have this show and express panel. That's basically to show or to take off if it should be available when you press in the F2 keyword and you go into the navigation from the right-hand menu as just showed. I've unticked this because I only want to use this search settings in a web part that I had on as a dashboard on the front page. But in here, I've chosen that there should be a document type search, and I've set up some term set filters up here. So this I have set up in my tenant. I've set up a term set for the project type, and this is the ID of that term set I've put in here. So that just tells WorkPoint that whenever I open up this search setting in a web part, it should automatically show me this navigation page or pane where I have all of the filters available from the term set that I have set up. And then of course I can use this well to set up a manage property. So first of all, I have the ID of the term set, and then I need to tell this WorkPoint here which field it is that it should search in WorkPoint, or which manage property is using that term set. So in here I've set up previously some refinable strings on the tenant level. There's a refinable string 50 that uses this term set filter. That's basically just mapped to the project type, is what you need to understand. And then we have the wizard configurations as well, which is where I can select, if I have something set up in here, I can select individual items and the search result, and I can choose items and then send to, and I can then choose a wizard that should open. So if I have this wizard configurator page over here on the left-hand menu, if you have this set up, I just created a simple wizard in here that copies documents using the wizard flow that we have right now, with finding an entity and then create new items. And that's basically what we did when we showed this. So I just told my search setting that whenever I open this page or this search setting page in a web part, for instance, this wizard should be available from the search results. And down here is where I actually define the different result groups. So it's a very simple one for the document search that I have. There's no base query in here. Everything comes from this content type setup that I have. So all the content in the solution, I've set up which content types I should search for in here. So this will only find items in the entire WorkPoint solution that is mapped with either one of these document content types. So that's a way to filter down on the content really quickly. And then I have my refiners over here where I can say, okay, these are the actual refiners that I want to be able to have whenever I go in and do the search results. So if we see, I'm just going to jump back really quick just to show it again, the refiners that I had in document overview. So these filters over here that I have, the author, the file type, the department, project ID, department type, these all comes from these refinable strings that I've set up. So if we go out of this again, what you'll be able to see afterwards is that I've mapped refinable string 21 to one of the names that I've just shown in the filter pane. So if we jump back one time here and just going to jump down a little bit, we have set up here in the last part of the search setting page, we have these refiner labels. And in here you can see that I've mapped everything. Whenever I use refinable string 21 in the solution in the search settings, it will display department value instead. So this is because we can't rename refinable strings in SharePoint Online. We do some renaming on in the web part instead with WorkPoint, so that we set this up here one time, and this supports different languages as well, where I say that the refinable string 21, that in English that's department, in Danish it's afdeling, for instance. That's all supported here. So it's just that we get some user-friendly values shown whenever we see these search settings. And if I just jump back into this search settings that I had, one last thing to note in here is that we have set this column group up as well. So I have set up a specific column group. I have a lot of different ones here. Say whenever I go in and use this result group called documents, I want the result to show in a specific set of columns with a specific set of metadata in there. And for this, I've used a documents column group that will just show you how it's set up. So all of these search settings, they point to a specific column group whenever you have a search result. So the documents column group that I just had here, I can go in and edit. So I can see that for the documents column group that I had, it will show me an icon first of all, which is just if it's a Word, PDF, Excel file or something like this. Then we have the file name, it will show me, and these all the managed properties that comes from the search index that I have over here. And then I have the name of the actual column that I want to display in the solution. So these 6 different columns is what I see if I go over here as well. So I have these, the type here, if it's a PowerPoint, PDF, Word, I have the file name, I have the document type, the project ID, author, and modified. These all comes from this column group. And what we saw when we looked at the tasks, for instance, if we go and open the task search settings here, I'll be able to see that I've set up 3 different result groups here. So these were the ones that I started showing where I can use the drop-down menu that I have on the left-hand side during the search, under the search bar itself, where I can set up a base query, and I can set up which column groups should actually be available whenever I use this specific result group. So I have this my open task that I started by showing. This has a default base query that says that it only searches for or finds item where this is translated to assigned to in my display settings. The current user, so this would be the name of the user that I'm currently logged in with. And then I want to find where the status is not equal to completed. So this is basically just the search query that I had to find my open tasks. And then I have a column group here called tasks for my tasks. And this shows me different results. If I go in and show open task, I'm going to show all tasks, because if I want to show open task, I don't want to see the status column, because status column is just going to be in progress for every single item anyway. So this is not part of this result column group. But if I go into open tasks, there's a different set of metadata that I want to display in the results. I want to display who is assigned this document, because it might be different people now. It wasn't up here. But I don't want to show the status because all of these would be open. Up here, I didn't want to show the assigned to, because that's always me. Down here with the open tasks, there's more information about the assigned to user. And over here, we have both the status of the task and the user who it's assigned to should be shown in the result that I have. So I have the 3 different column groups specified in the search settings, and each of these different result groups is set up to show a different column group. So I have different metadata that's shown directly based upon the search result that I've chosen. And in here as well, you can have different content types that are shown. These are all tasks in my example here. So these all use the same content type that is searched for. This is just tasks in the system. But you can also have different refinable or refiners available. So for instance, one of these is the due date, for instance. We want to show on each one of these, but you might have the status or the assigned to user that you don't want to show, and these are basically the refinable string 30 and 31. that we use to show who's it assigned to. That might be relevant to have one place but not another. So this is the way that we do this. And again, up here when we do the task search as well, we have this wizard set up. So that is the other wizard that I have over here. It's just a simple batch update wizard that I created, and then which fields should be editable from this wizard. I've set up that whenever I use the search result, I can open this wizard as well, because I know that I've set this up to only show tasks, and I know the wizard that I use here is specifically for updating tasks. Just on that note, the way that we know in WorkPoint how to update some of the metadata on the results is by setting up this manage property mapping down here. So for instance, the due date and the assigned to, I've set up a way here to say if I have a result in search called refinable date 11, which is the due date, this should be mapped to this internal field name. So what the WorkPoint will do is it will copy the value into this field on the target side that I chose. So if you remember, if I go into the task wizard again, where I chose which task I wanted to copy, I selected the target project that I wanted to copy it to, and from there, this information that I have in refinable date 11 would be copied into the due date for that specific project that I chose task list. And if we just open some of these different tasks column groups, I can see these are the different setups that I have for my task and for open tasks. And the only difference here is that I have this assigned to column available that I've mapped that I don't have on the other one. So this is a way that I can control which metadata should be available on each of these result groups up here. So the search settings in general in WorkPoint is just a way where we set up a general search setting where I say that I want to search for risk, I want to search for tasks, and I have something where I use this to show only projects from the customer front page, which was where I was in CHS company. That is set up specifically up here, so I can use these in different Webparts around the system and then configure them from there. And I use the column groups for each individual search setting that I have, and I can have many different column groups available within each search setting. And if I use a wizard here to, for instance, copy documents or update metadata on a task, I can have these different managed property mapped up to the solution so the WorkPoint knows when we copy things, where should data be stored, in which actual site column instead of having to be searched. And then we have all these translations down here. So all of these fields or findable strings I've set up in the tenant scope of this solution, and I've just mapped each to the properties that correlates to each of the site columns in WorkPoint. And then I've translated these so that whenever I use filters in the search setting up here, we have a very fitting name instead of having it to be some obscure refinable string name that we have. And as soon as you've set up all of these search settings, it's very simple to actually set up this page that I have right now. So most of the work in setting all of these search settings up is to manually go in and set up all of the managed properties that we have here. So for instance, this is the search setting page in the SharePoint tenant level. It's a bit confusing to start off with, but in here you can see what I've actually done. I've set up a refinable string 20 to be mapped to this property called VP VAT, which is the name or the information from the VAT column on each individual company here. So if I go into the companies list, I have this VAT number. It just takes information from here, basically. But if you set up this Webpart, if you wanted to create a new Webpart that looks like this, all you actually have to do is use the advanced search Webpart in WorkPoint. So for instance, I have over here, I have just 5 settings in total. I can give it a name, of course. That's can be empty if we want to. But then I can select from the search settings that I've set up in the search setting WorkPoint administration page. I can see, okay, I want to have this document navigation search. And then I can decide if I want to show a preview or I want to show the search bar. So I can remove these if I want. So if I click on it, the preview of the document will show up or not. And these are some of the options that I ticked off when I was in the company side and I showed projects. I just take both of these off because I don't want a search bar and I don't want to have a preview of document or project metadata. I just want to be able to click on it and see which project is there as a static list. But in here, I want users to be able to search and get a preview of it. But in here, I can do just change this to risk, for instance. And if I save this, now I actually have my risk web part. So this is very easy to just quickly swap around as soon as you set everything up in the WorkPoint solution. So there's nothing that I have to do other than actually create the different search settings in the WorkPoint solution. Then these Webparts just takes all of the settings from there and is perfectly configured here with all the filters and all of these term sets. Everything is done behind the scenes before I actually put this Webpart in, and all the column groups, etc. here. Yeah, I think that was what I wanted to go through on the session about the search. I wanted to show the Express panel functionality that we have, and the web part that can show these Express panel search settings. And what are some of the possibilities with these that you can really do a nice quick overview of the solution.
Thank you very much, Lars. I think you are finished right now. So this is very nice, and thank you very much once again for your presentation. I think this is a very, very important topic because you have to find the right data at the right time, and I think this is very nice that you show this to us. Thank you very much. As I can see, we had a few questions, but you already answered it in your presentation. That's the perfect way. And of course, we had also one suggestion which I will tell you afterwards to something. So we will wait a few moments to get maybe some more questions, and if this will happen, then we can answer them. Otherwise, like I said before, you can go on our partner portal or contact sales or service and support if you have questions, suggestions. We are very open and want to improve all the time. So we are happy to get your suggestions or your questions and answer them and help you to get more information about it. So we will wait a few moments more, and then we can definitely say this was a very good presentation. Thank you once again, Lars. Just in case that you don't know, we have on Thursday, the 3rd of November, we have the WorkPoint Express webinar. Also a very interesting tool and very interesting topic. So we are very happy to see you all here, and I know it's a partner only webinar. So I hope we see everybody of you on Thursday next week on our partner day. Lars, I think your presentation was just too brilliant. So there are no, there are no questions anymore.
Right.
Then I would say thank you very much for joining, Lars, and also joining the partners to the webinar. Once again, check out our homepage. All events are on it, the partner day, the new webinars, and of course, a lot of information. Contact us if you need help, have questions or suggestions. So thank you very much. Have a nice day, and bye.